think we're live. So I feel a little confused about your name because sometimes I think it's Vitali and sometimes I think it's Vitalik with a C at the end. So which one is it?
It's both. It's both.
That's
The
both.
official
Okay.
name is Vitaly. Yeah, but almost everyone call me Vitalik. The Vitaly is official one. If you're a teacher in school, everyone will call you Vitaly, and even this like this father name like Valerievich, Vitaly Valerievich. But the usual name is Vitalik, so call me Vitalik.
If I were to have guessed, I thought it would be the other way around. I thought
Mm,
that Vitalik was going to be the formal name, the official name, and
mm,
Vitali was going to be the pet name because in my sort of how I think of nicknames, they often end in Y.
mm,
A lot of nicknames have a Y at the end, something E. And so in my brain, I
mm.
thought, okay, and also that one is shorter. So usually the shorter name is the one that is the
Yeah,
common sort of nickname, and the longer name is the official one.
yeah, that makes sense. You can call me either way.
All right, well, I'll try to reprogram my brain to call you Vitalik instead of Vitali. I apologize. Some people call me Lucas because they think that Luke is short for Lucas, but it's not.
Mm,
On my birth certificate it says Luke, Luke. It doesn't say Lucas. So I can
mm.
understand the feeling of when people just assume something and get it wrong. It can be a bit annoying for sure. Well, we're going to be talking about debating a bit. We'll actually practice one. Hopefully that'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I haven't prepared what I'm going to say, so we're on level playing field here. But I wonder, in your life or work, how often do you find yourself having disagreements with people that you have to figure out or resolve through conversation? I mean, does it happen pretty often? Do you have regular conflicts with your team at work or with family members or friends?
No, not a lot.
Hmm.
At work, almost nothing. But it depends on the field and depends who I'm interacting with. But usually, I'm interacting most of the time with my wife, and after 13 years of uh, life together, we already discussed almost everything. But we still have
You
some
should
disagreements.
you should write a book about that, about how to get to that point.
Mm.
Because my wife and I are still having the classic disagreements after 10 years. Maybe it takes three more. Then we'll solve everything after three more.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so for work, you would say you have a low conflict work environment, not much disagreement, not much arguing about things,
Mhm.
not much room for other people's points of view causing some kind of problem.
Yeah, no, because I work in a really big company, so if some people disagree with each other, they just asking someone um, who they can ask for the help or for the opinion usually.
Right. And so if you were not working in a big company and you were working in, for example, a startup company, it would be probably a very different story. I
Uh, Probably.
Yeah, I spent 4 years, 4.5 years in a startup company, and that was every day was a disagreement about something. But I mean, it's a fun process. It's an exciting process to disagree and kind of not fight, but argue about what's the right way to do something. I find it very interesting. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to explore a couple of ways that we can debate and then give it a try. Uh, can you think of any benefit to having a debate? Actually, first, let's say, Do you know the difference between a debate and an argument?
Um, for me, argument is something you are um, um, expressing to anyone, to someone,
Hmm.
in order to give them an idea what you mean, what you meaning. But a debate is like an action, what you are doing in order to achieve some agreement.
It's interesting that you mentioned it that way because they have two different meanings.
Mm.
So you said an argument is something that you say to try to convince something of someone of something, and that is correct. So if you have a belief or an opinion about something and you want to give reasons to support that thing, you would you would make you would make an argument. And that's like putting together the pieces and then expressing it and hopefully convincing someone. It's similar to the word case. To make a case for something would be to put all the pieces together and express it. However, then there's the other meaning of argument. If if we use the word have instead of make, it changes completely.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the difference in meaning with have instead of make? Have an argument instead of make an argument. Totally different.
Mm-hmm. So have an argument may be similar to have a fight, like
Yes.
you are disagreeing in something. Yeah.
That's where it gets a little confusion because confusing. This one word has two very different connotations. Those two people are having an argument. As soon as we hear that, we picture rah, 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 that sort of thing. If you make an argument, that doesn't mean you're yelling. It means you're clearly stating a case or a position or a reason why you believe something. So, yeah, good. I'm glad you mentioned that. The debate would be just this ongoing process. So, debate usually has a level of respect, rules, listening to the other person, and not sort of talking over them, waiting for them to finish their point, and often taking a position or taking a view that may not even be completely what you think for the sake of figuring out something. For the sake of, we could say, I mentioned the startup thing, right? Sometimes I'll take an opinion on one extreme and someone else will take an opinion on the other extreme. Actually, both of us are in the middle. But if we take opposite positions, then we might be able to maybe really explore the pros and cons, or the good points and the bad points, or explore. Oops, that's an O. All possible avenues. Have you heard that expression before?
Avenues, no.
So,
Like I know what
and
avenues means, but not in this case.
avenue is a big road, right? So exploring all possible avenues is a common expression that's used to mean we haven't considered every little detail of this.
Mm.
So, or every option that we have. So, if we have a debate, we might at least be able to see something we didn't see before, or notice something we were blind to before, because we took two opposite views. Whereas usually we're
Mm.
kind of in the middle, and we have a bunch of assumptions and we think certain things, and we're not seeing the big picture. Um, are you one more phrase I want to talk about before we get into the how part? Have you heard of a devil's advocate before?
Is it a movie? Yeah.
I think it is, but it comes from I think it is. I think it comes from an expression, though. I think the expression came before the movie.
Yeah. No, no, I haven't seen it.
So actually, you're bringing up a lot of interesting things. Do you remember what that movie is about?
No.
Is that the one with Keanu Reeves? I think
Mm,
maybe. I think that's a play on words where they're using that expression, and there's actually the devil is actually in the movie, and the advocate is the one representing the devil. Devil's advocate in regular, ordinary life just means I'm going to disagree with you because
Mm-hmm.
that's useful. And often you'll hear the
Mm-hmm.
word play in front of it. So let me play devil's advocate. Play devil's
Mm-hmm.
advocate. I'm going to completely disagree with what you just said. Why would I want to do that? Why would that be useful? Why might that be a useful thing to do?
Sorry, which one?
If I say, okay, so let's say for example, you tell me that you're going to buy you have a great idea. You're going to buy an apartment building as an
Mm-hmm.
investment, and you think this is going to be a great thing for you, and maybe it is, and rent it out to people. And I say, let me just play devil's advocate. If you do that, the amount of hassle that you will outweigh the benefit of owning this apartment building. All of the tenants and insurance and taxes, it's going to be a burden, and your life is going to be worse by owning it. That may not even be my real opinion. I'm just standing on the opposite side to point out some things that you maybe didn't consider because you're too excited about your idea.
Mm-hmm. So you're basically just trying to watch on something from the other point of view in order to find the cons, the possible cons or possible disadvantages, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe find some blind spots or things you didn't see before. And usually
Mm-hmm.
it's play. For some reason, it's usually play devil's advocate. I'm not sure why. I guess it's a role that you play. You pretend to be someone who disagrees with everything. Usually you're doing it for a positive reason, though. Usually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before we get into actually trying this out, what do you think about convincing somebody of something that they don't think? Are you aware of any ways to do that? If somebody doesn't believe what you believe and you want to try to maybe not totally convince them, but make them really consider your side, have you ever used any methods or do you know any methods for doing that?
Yeah, like before the stream, I was thinking about it, about the topics for today's stream, and I remembered the method of is it sandwich or something like that. And
Sandwich? Yeah,
yeah, and
I
I
know that one.
maybe learned it from you. I don't remember exactly, but probably.
Perhaps.
So yeah, when you're trying to convince someone or to say something bad, maybe you
Feedback.
start to like something bad, something not pleasant to someone. You need to start with something good or to cheer up someone, and after that you are telling the truth or what you
Yeah.
think that is not a pleasant information, and you're finishing with something pleasant
So I
again.
think yeah, it's the bun on top, and then the real. This is a gross sandwich. It's like a burger with some cheese on top, and then the other one. And I think the idea is that the top and the bottom bun are kind of just carbs. It's not really, there's no real meat there, but you need that
Mm-hmm.
in order to hold the the meat, the stuff, the protein, the stuff that you're really getting from the burger. So for feedback, it would be something nice. For a debate, it might be something like, well, you have a good point about this, but
Mm-hmm.
then you say that. So you first acknowledge another person's point. Yeah, what you said there, that's totally true. I agree with that. However, then disagree. Say the opposite
Mm-hmm.
view in some way, and then finish with, but I think your point about X is really valid or interesting or something like that. You don't even have to say, I agree. You could just say, that's a very, you could just call it interesting,
Mm-hmm.
or that's a cool idea. You're not really saying I agree. You're just saying you're just sort of appreciating the idea as a thing, and then you disagree. That's a good way to do it. Yeah, I like that. It's a really disgusting burger I've made here. I, have you ever watched American courtroom TV shows?
Courtroom? No, but I think we have a alternative in Russia.
Is it a lie? Is it a real situation? I mean, reality show,
No,
or you mean it's a drama in the courtroom?
it's drama in courtroom. It's fake, but someone believes it's real. I guess.
Well, it's a whole genre of TV. It's becoming less popular, but especially in the early 2000s, TV shows like Law and Order and Boston Legal, shows like that, it's all based on a case in a courtroom and then the
Mhm.
drama around that case. Often, when you hear people in a courtroom talking about or trying to force someone into a statement, they'll say either isn't it true that, and then they'll frame it as a question, or they'll say if that were true. So this, we could say, these are two ways of kind of poking holes in someone's case. You think that I'm going to kind of, it's like a bag of water. I'm going to poke some holes in it, and the more holes I poke in it, the weaker it looks. So this is not the sandwich method, although I think that's a good method too. This is a way to say uh, all of these things that you think individually, I'm going to show that they're weak or wrong, and then I'm going to say my opinion and kind of death by a thousand cuts your argument. Isn't it true that is something you often hear in courtroom dramas? It would be something like, if we're debating about, I don't know, policies for people having children. So one side thinks that we should give every parent who has a kid a $50,000 tax break because we're having fewer and fewer children. For example, in Japan, the rate of birth is going down. There's a debate around that. Well, you would say something like, isn't it true that the birth rate is declining year over year? And if it's a fact that I say and it's on my side, you have to say, yeah, that's true. You're forced into saying yes, kind of. Isn't it
Mhm.
true? It's kind of like a pointing a finger in your face and saying, this isn't it true? And you kind of have to say yes. But if I say five of those, it makes my side look stronger.
Mhm.
It's quite useful. It can be a little rude, but it can be also very useful, especially if you want to show
So it's
someone.
like a method of convincing.
It's a method of well, even if they never change their view, people watching might.
Mhm.
Will never convince them, but the other people sitting around looking at it might start thinking, oh yeah, that is true. Oh, that's
Mhm.
true too. Oh, that one's true as well. You kind of just add it up and force them to say yes to things that are on your side. That's a common one you see in a courtroom. Have you heard this one before? If that were true,
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
do you know how it would be used? This is a little different.
If that- like what's the difference and which one to use when?
Well, let's just focus on this second one here. So we've got the isn't it true that this is pretty simple because all you have to do is make a statement. Isn't it true that bananas are yellow? Isn't it true that anything you want to say, and as long as it is true, it's I don't know what debate we would be having about bananas, but this one though is a little different. It's a bit softer. It's usually an if that were true and then a why question. Do you remember where you've heard that one before?
The second one is seems like it's condition, not a
Mm-hmm.
condition, but like
It
a
is a condition.
question. So it's
It's a
yeah.
conditional question. Exactly. I'll give you an example, then maybe you can think of one as well. Okay, let's say the topic is something like, I don't know if you know that in the United States, uh, the climate change stuff, a lot of people don't even believe it's real. I think it's made up, whether you think so or
Is it
not.
happening only in United States?
Climate change, and it's only happening for people who believe it's happening. And if you don't believe it's happening, it's not happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's say that's the thing that people are discussing, and you've made a statement that you think is true, but I want to show something that I think shows the opposite is true.
Mhm,
So I say, if that were true, that being the thing you just said, why? And then make an exact opposite thing that basically cancels it. So
mhm,
you say electric cars are never going to be popular. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not, just a statement. And I say, if that were true, why are electric car sales increasing year over year? What I said cancels what you said. And you use why because then it kind of throws it in their face. Like, okay, you think this? Well, then why this? And then they have to sit there with that question and think about how to respond. It's quite useful. It can be
mhm,
quite useful.
mhm.
Got it?
Yeah.
All right. Can you think of an example of this one? Anything come to mind?
If that were true.
Okay, how about this? I'll give you a basic prompt, okay?
Mhm.
Something crazy. Bananas are deadly.
Deadly?
Deadly, yes. Bananas are deadly. The bananas are the most toxic fruit on the planet.
If bananas were deadly, why so much people can eat them and don't die?
Right. That's perfect. So, but now note what you said is not, if that were true, why is it not true? What you said is a little
Mhm,
more than that. You said, if that were true,
mhm,
why do so many people eat them and not die? So you have to say something a little different than my statement that shows that I'm wrong, rather than just saying, if that were true, why is it not true directly? It would be
mhm.
too simple. So what you said is actually perfect. I think is good. All right. I think we can give it a try. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I'm going to give you a choice of, okay, we'll go through. I have 3 possible topics. I'm going to give you a choice of topics. I'll let you choose the topic, and then I'll let you choose the side you want. So I'll give you all the choice, okay?
Okay.
Okay, 3 statements. Number 1, life is better with social media. Life is better with social media. Okay.
Mhm,
Number 2, uh, all citizens should get a universal basic income. Do you know what that is?
mhm. Yeah.
Everybody just gets $5,000 no matter what. Okay. Number 3, we should put resources or money into space exploration, exploring space.
Mhm.
Okay, of those 3, which one do you think is more interesting? Social media, universal basic income, we can call it UBI, or space exploration.
All of them are interesting, and I can debate on all of them.
All right, well, let's start with one. Let's see how it goes with one.
Okay.
You want to you want to go with social media? Start with that one?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now, you have to pick a side. When you pick a side for a debate, it's generally better if you are hard on one side. If we're both kind of floating around in the middle, then it's not a very interesting debate because we're always saying, "Oh yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I agree." And then it just becomes a conversation,
Mhm,
which is boring. So, you
mhm,
kind of have to be extreme. You have to pick a side and then stay on that side and kind of never give the other side any room. So life is better with social media or not?
I will say better.
Okay, so I will be okay. So in this case, the statement is life is better with social media. You are for this position. This meaning of for means you are pro this position. You agree with it, and I am against. Okay, so just to label this for everybody. Right?
The last one is K, not C.
Oh, it's K.
Yeah.
Oh. I find it so fascinating that your nickname is longer than your. So this is your birth name. This is the name on your
Yeah.
government ID. And this is
Yes.
your nickname.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I'm sorry, I find it fascinating. It's like I'm trying to think of an example. I think there's an example of a country whose adjective is longer than the noun, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But it's unusual. Oh, here's an example. My wife's given name, her birth name is Jing, Jing. But the name that everyone calls her, not just me, but everybody, friends, family, is Mushroom.
Mhm.
It's way longer. So,
But it's just a nickname, right?
well, yeah, I guess so. But so is yours, right?
No, it's not a nickname. Like almost every Vitaly in Russia would be Vitalik by default. So it's not a nickname, it's just a regular name for
Oh.
Vitaly.
And not every Jing is a mushroom.
Yeah.
That would be weird. Well, okay, fair enough. It is, I guess it's a nickname, but everybody uses it. It's not like just me. It's my parents call her that, and her friends,
Mhm.
my friends. Um, Interesting. All right, back to the thing. So, a lot of people spell my name like this. It drives me crazy. Everyone writes it as luck. When I see people write my name, they think it's luck. I don't know why. My my nickname in Chinese is this one
Look.
because it sounds the same. It's look. So my Chinese
Mhm.
nickname is Kanga. It means sort of like brother. Look.
Mhm.
It's an interesting one. Um, okay, so this is me. Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay, you start.
Okay, so I'm making some statement, right?
You're making
I'm
some statements to support the position that social
mhm.
media is life is better with social media.
Yeah, okay. Life is better with social media because social media can be used to connect people from different parts of the world.
Okay. While it may be true, oh, this is a phrase that I forgot. This is kind of a phrase for the sandwich method. Well, I give you a point, but then use that point to disagree. While it may be true that social media does connect more people around the world, there is a general tendency for those connections to cause more disagreements and more negative emotions than positive. So the net is negative, not positive. Yes, more people are connected, but first of all, is it really a connection? For example, on Instagram, when I look at somebody's pictures of their super cool lifestyle, that they're living and that looks amazing, am I really connected to them? If I am connected, it's a very thin connection. It's not the same sort of connection I have with a close friend. So I would say, first, connected in what way? Not a very good way, possibly, or at least not very much. And second, when I see that amazing lifestyle, it's likely to cause me to feel depressed, not happy. I don't say, wow, cool beach. What an amazing life. That's great for them. I say, shit, my life is terrible. I wish I was on a beach. I wish I could fly around in private planes. So it's likely to cause me to feel depressed, not happy.
Yeah. Yeah, but you are talking mostly about Instagram in this case, right? Yeah, yeah. Here I agree. But I'm talking more about some regular social. Is social media, social network is the same thing in our
Yeah,
conversation, like
generally, social
Facebook?
media is pretty broad. It's
Yeah.
it's sort of like uh, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram,
Mhm.
Twitter, all of the large platforms where people interact with each other.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm talking more about Facebook. In this case, people can connect to their relative, to their friends, which live abroad or far away from them. So in this case, they can talk to them, text to them. Like before, people could just talk on the phone,
Hmm.
and before the invention of the phone, they couldn't do even
Well,
phone
I'm
call.
not going to. I'm not going to say that phones are bad. Like, we're not talking about telephones. Okay, that's a good point. Now, can we clarify one point? Can we say that a basic chat app like WhatsApp, where you just directly talk with one person, in my mind, is not social media. Social media
Yeah.
usually, right? Social media is usually more, you see their timeline maybe on Facebook and pictures
Uh-huh.
of them that they share. That's a little more. So I actually think the chat app could be good because it's a one-on-one connection. Telegram or Signal, WhatsApp. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just was going to say that usually chat is included in some social network like
Who uses
Instagram,
those?
Facebook,
Those are
etc.
terrible. Do you use them?
I used to use them, but nowadays I mostly use like only chats like Telegram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like most people are like that. I don't know how many people are having deep conversations in the Instagram chat, direct message chat. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people are, but
My wife
okay.
do.
It makes it a little harder. When I I see my extended family once a year. For the Thanksgiving holiday, I will go back to Ohio from New York and I will see them, and that's great. But I also, throughout the year, I see their posts. Usually it's on Facebook. I see what they're up to. And me seeing what they're up to is a way to not interact with them. In
Hmm.
other words, they post something up there. I see, oh, my cousin, he made a handmade Thor hammer because that's his hobby. He makes stuff out of wood. He likes to do that, and I see it and I give it a like, and that's it. So I'm in a way, by connecting that way, I'm telling myself I connected with my family, but I didn't really, because that's kind of just a like. It's a one way thing. It's almost less interaction.
Yeah, but it depends on what not the settings of publicity, but how publicly this your friend or relative did it. If it's like really publicly, like on a wall on Facebook, yeah, it's kind of like, and that's it. But you can use something like private chats when only relatives have access to. And in this case, if your relative or friend will post something, you will not just hit a like. You can just record an audio message or text something, or you will call with this chat and see all of them. So it's a matter of level of publicity, I would say.
I think that's fair. I think I would just say that while it may be true that you can do that in a lot of cases, many people are not, because they feel that seeing what their friends and family are doing is interaction, and so it makes them lazy, and they don't reach out, they don't text, they don't they don't call them. They do it at least less often because they feel like they have a connection. But actually social media is making the connection lower quality. It's not really a quality connection most of the time. I agree, you can do more. You can send a voice message, but who's doing that? I don't know. Maybe not that many people. Can I make
Yeah,
one
yeah.
other can I make one other point in general? I think social media makes people more have stronger opinions and more hateful. I think social media makes people angry at other people that they don't even know. If if someone says something that you disagree with, since they're not really there, and you go into the comments and type your opinion, it has an angry feeling to it. If you ever look at a popular YouTube video and you look underneath, it's just rage. People, it's there's so much hatred underneath in comments. So I think that's also a negative thing, because you're not really sitting down and talking with them. If you do that, you will probably be a lot nicer. I think social media makes people bitter and angry and want to just throw out their negative emotions sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just I just recall the video of Elon Musk when he talks about Instagram, that people are really dissatisfied with their life because of Instagram. They see on the perfect pictures of someone's life, and they think like, oh, my life isn't the same, is not the same, and because of that, I shouldn't be happy. But it's not because of the social media itself, it's because of how people use it. Because Instagram
Mm-hmm.
started as just a photo app when you can, I don't know, post everything. Yeah, it slowly became what it became, but it can change even further, like not in a bad way, but in something good. I don't know how. I don't know why this happened. Like the Instagram became Instagram in the current state, but it can happen again in a couple of years.
So you think we're in a transition period where it's maybe going to get better, but right now it's not great. There's negativity.
I it's again a level of publicity. Like on Instagram, I post really rare or something like not significant, but in private chats with my relatives, with my parents, I public much more and more personal things.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I can share the same thing which I post to my parents in Instagram, but I don't do it, and I don't know why. And I'm a proponent of the idea that everyone should post like a lot of the ideas publicly. Um,
But
but
you
people
don't.
don't do it
You're a
usually.
proponent, but you don't do
Yeah,
it.
even me, I don't. Yeah, yeah,
That's a little hypocritical, eh?
yeah. That's true. But I remember you told that everyone should have a YouTube channel in order to practice English or even your native language, to share ideas, something like this. I remember you told it.
Well, I did say that, but I didn't say that everyone should share all of their opinions on that YouTube channel. I think because I
Um,
think that's a good point, because I do believe everyone should have a YouTube channel, but I think if you are always throwing out everything inside of your head, you're going to get back a lot of negative stuff too. So I think it's good to pick a niche and then explore that deeply, but know what you're doing, and it's great. It's a great way to express yourself. But I think if you start just saying everything, you're going to get into wars with other people on social media, and it could cause your quality of life could be destroyed by that.
Yeah, I agree. And I believe that what you're saying, not as like it's the same as much as important as how you're saying, because you disagree with that you don't want to share everything, but it's a matter of how you're sharing it, I believe. Like, of course, you don't need to share everything, but some people can share something in very polite and fancy way, and in this case it will be not the same thing as someone else would share it completely differently.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I really like it's not a channel, but it's a speaker who I sometimes mention named Terrence McKenna, and I've listened to a lot of his lectures, and he says if you actually think about it, a lot of things that are completely insane, but because he speaks in a certain way, you have to process it, and it takes a while to process it. By the time you've processed it, he's moved on to something else. So it's a way to, if you say it the right way, you can say almost anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the power of language. Well,
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel that we agree more than we disagree. So
Yes. So it's not a debate, it's just in a conversation.
this is often what happens in debates if they're not structured
Hmm.
and there's no hard rules and there's no moderator. Because a debate, you usually want to have some kind of moderator in the middle who's kind of keeping both sides apart. So it's a natural thing. Can I mention a couple of interesting phrases that you used that I like?
Hmm.
Just want to make sure that people caught it. You said, "I am a proponent of the idea." So you use the word proponent. That's a great phrase. I'm a proponent of the idea. Speaking of fancy speech, can you explain what that means? That phrase, "I'm a proponent of the idea," just in case people don't know, because it's good.
So that basically when you are for something, then you are agree with some idea, and you are um, fully fully supported.
Yes, but it's a little even more than that. It's kind of active support. Any opportunity you
Hmm.
have to be supportive of it or get it out there, you do that. So you're a proponent of it. You don't just passively sort of say, "Yeah."
Hmm.
You're a little more proactive about it. So that it's a great
Hmm.
phrase, a proponent of the idea. You also used it's said it's a matter of how, and then matter, this word here. Also a great phrase. I think it's very useful. And you could replace this with when, where, what, and you could put a lot of things there. Do you want to explain what you meant by that?
It's a matter of
It's a matter of how
um,
you were talking about speech. You said it's not a matter of what, it's a matter of how. Very interesting structure there.
yeah. By this I mean that some characteristics are more important than the others.
Yes, and the emphasis is on some people.
Hmm.
You're acknowledging that some people may focus on the wrong part, and that's
Hmm.
when you use a matter of. It's not a matter of it's a matter of So
Hmm.
I'm saying I don't want you to focus on this. I think that the other thing is more important.
Hmm.
And you could say whole phrases there. It's not a matter of how hard you work on something. It's a matter of the way that you are working on it or the method that you use. Because you're shifting focus from one thing to another, and you're telling people that they should shift their focus from one thing to another thing. It's a good one. Good phrases. Uh, Now I want to, if there's a small point, you used you so we were talking you were talking about the type of language to use, and you said polite and fancy. What did you mean by fancy language?
Maybe I use it wrongly, but fancy for me is when people saying um, with really beautiful long uh, tenses describing their ideas really. mm, I don't know, not always politely, but no,
Yeah, because politely could be simply adding little
yeah,
phrases like "would you mind" and "could you please" and "if that's
yeah,
okay," and things like that to soften language. There are a lot of little phrases that can make things more polite that are not necessarily fancy, right?
hmm
I want to if it's speech, um, we might use the word verbose, which is kind of a fancy word to be honest. If it's speech, verbose is a good one. If someone is verbose, they have access to a lot of language they can use when they're speaking,
hmm
spoken language specifically. Um, that might be a good one to use. Fancy is okay, but people might understand fancy in different ways. Sometimes fancy
hmm
is the sentence structure, but sometimes fancy is just adding a bunch of adjectives to it. And so it really depends on what
hmm
people mean. But if someone is verbose, then they're able to command a lot of language when they need it when they're speaking, which is a yeah useful skill for sure. Well, thanks for doing the debate. I appreciate it. Do you have any thoughts or questions or concerns? It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Any questions or remarks? I'm looking through the chat here to see if anyone has any questions for you or me. Mm-mm. Who is he? Someone says.
I'm a programmer.
You're a programmer. Okay. And
Yeah.
how long have you been doing that?
About 5 years.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Like I
All right.
lived in St. Petersburg, and 2 months ago I moved here in Sweden.
And do you like what you do? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, yeah, I really like it.
What do you like about it?
Um, I like to work with computers. Like
Mhm.
when I was a kid, I used to doing something like inside of the computer or inside of software, like doing something, configuring something. So it's my thing. And even right now, I'm usually just spend all my time in front of the computer.
Yeah. It's a good way. It's a good way to live. Some people criticize the computer life, but I think a lot of things are more interesting on the computer than in real life. I was thinking this. I was at the supermarket the other day, and I was thinking, this isn't that interesting. This is real life, but it's just a bunch of fruit and vegetables. I would rather be at home on the internet. That's the thought I had. It's such a childish thought, but that's what I thought. I thought this is boring. I want to go home. Real life is becoming less interesting than the internet, which is quite interesting. All right. Well, again, I appreciate your time and doing this. Maybe we can do another one sometime if you like. No, do you have any questions for me before we call it a day?
No, everything was great. Thank you for having me, Luke.
One
It was really
one
cool.
small point I would give you on English. You're actually. I mean, you have a great command of the English language. You use language very well. You express yourself really well. And I'm not one to point out different dialects or accents because I don't care as long as you can express yourself, right? but there's one little sound that I a couple times misunderstood the word you said because of that
Mhm.
sound, and it's replacing the th sound with the f sound. Because there were a
Mhm.
couple times when I had to think, what was that? I misunderstood. So only when it causes misunderstandings, you might want to consider that specific sound. Uh, like, for example, thing instead of thing, right? Because there are
Mhm.
times when the F sound with the rest of the word there can actually be a different word. And if someone hears the other
Mhm.
word, they might say, wait, what's that? And then they have to think about it a little more. So that's the only thing that really stuck out to me as something maybe to work on a little bit. But other than that, great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Vitalik, appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. Bye.
All right.
See you.
See ya. Awesome. That was cool. I want to do. He expresses himself so well. Vitalik is a smart guy. That's the first time we've actually talked on video. We've talked before on chat, but that's the first time we've talked on video. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but that was fun. That was interesting. Any questions on debating stuff? Any questions on that sort of thing? Let me know. I'm going to just give me 1 second. I'm going to change a title. So hold on, hold your horses, just a moment. And I'll get to the comments as well. If you have questions, I will get to them. I will get to them. I will get to them. So if anyone has questions on any of the phrases that we talked about quite a few, to be honest. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Okay, good. Where are you from? I'm from the United States. Nectar Sweet is here. Hello, Nectar Sweet. Good to have you. Raphael says social media doesn't make people angry, it makes them more courageous. Otherwise, how could I possibly tell the president to F off? Good question. Although I have, you know, don't give up. You can do that. You can tell the president that if you want to in person. Sometimes you're really shy to tell about some feelings that makes it easier for you, says Yamar. Okay. Is YouTube social media? YouTube is social media. That is correct. Raphael says Nick Vitalik. Really? Spelled with a K, though. All right. If you guys have any questions about grammar, idioms, pronunciation, culture, words, phrases, or whatever, let me know. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Check out the courses. If you want to get a free course, you can click the link in the description and get a free course. I have a couple of things planned for today in addition to the class that we were doing. One, we're going to be talking about, because we're on the sort of the theme of disagreement and debate. I want to talk a little bit about some common phrases for disagreement, both rudely and politely. Whether you want to be rude or polite is up to you, of course. I want to do another app review of a grammar learning application to check that out. I've got what else? I want to do a couple of Reddit questions as well, in addition to questions that you have. And I did want to quickly go through a news story that we can use as a way to explore language, pull out some words and phrases. And we did that, I think, a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. I don't know. It all blurs together for me. So Yes, thank you all very much for joining. I hope you're having a good Friday. If it's Friday where you are, is it possible that anyone is not on Friday? No, I don't think so. I think right now it is. Well, maybe. Is anyone currently on a Saturday? It's got to be Saturday somewhere. Way over there in Asia, perhaps it might be Saturday. Australia, what's the time in Australia right now? It might be Saturday in Australia. All right. Korea, what time is it in Korea? What's the difference between some and any? Thank you. Let me think about that one. In Japan, it's Saturday. Really? Oh, okay, cool. Happy Saturday, Japan. Love that. Korea, awesome. 12:16 a.m. in Korea. Congratulations. What's it like? What's it like? I have to go through this whole Friday before I can get to Saturday. You lucky duck. Let me think about this for a second. What's the difference between some? Okay. Henrique Veloso says, what's the difference between some, any? Okay. Now, some and any are both called quantifiers, and there are a lot of different quantifiers. Basically, they tell you amounts of things. They tell you about different amounts of things. Now, there are two broad classes of quantifiers. There are quantifiers for uncountable nouns, and there are quantifiers for countable nouns. A quantifier for an uncountable noun would be something that you can't count, excuse me, like time. And there you would use a word that goes with a word like time, a quantifier that goes like time, that tells you that it can't be counted, but also gives you a sense of the amount of time, right? So can I say, for example, a lot of time? Yes, I can. Okay, so a lot can be used for uncountable nouns. Can I say many time? I can't say many time. Okay, so many may be for countable nouns, and a lot can be for uncountable nouns, all right? How about some? Okay, can I say some time? Yes, I can say some time. Great. But can I say some eggs? Yes, I can. Well, that's interesting. I don't know what's going on there. What about a quantifier for specifically a countable noun? How about a few? A few eggs. That is a small number of eggs. A few times. No. All right, so we're getting an idea of which ones go with countable and uncountable, but is it possible that some go with both? Let's go back to some. Some eggs, some time. That sounds right for both of them, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. So some is a very useful quantifier because it can be used for both countable and uncountable nouns. Many is only for countable nouns. A few is only for countable nouns. And I mean, there are a lot of these quantifiers, so we could explore this. A lot is for either one. We can say a lot of time, a lot of eggs. Okay, so a lot is used for both countable nouns and uncountable nouns. Now, what's the difference between some eggs and a lot of eggs? Some time, a lot of time. Well, it's not super clear because these are subjective. What do you think a lot is? If you're an egg farmer or a chicken farmer, then you see 50 eggs and you maybe don't think that's a lot. But I'm just a regular person and I consider 12 eggs to be a lot. So that's a lot to me. It is subjective, right? If we say some, that's a very, very fuzzy word, actually. We generally think of some as a smaller number, right? If I say some eggs, I might think that means 5 or 6 eggs, but everyone has a different idea about what that might mean. Because if I say, let's get some eggs for the party, we're going to make, for example, deviled eggs. That's a party thing. We're going to make a giant egg salad. So I say, let's get some eggs at the supermarket. That could be 36 eggs, which is some when I'm talking about it. But in other situations, when I see 36 eggs, I say that's a lot of eggs. So it's very subjective. Some and a lot, these two, and a lot of other quantifiers. Very subjective. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a sense of some. It's very flexible, both countable and uncountable. However, there is that sort of fuzziness and subjectivity that you have to think about. Sometime, just wait. After some time, you'll feel better. Okay. I'm having an allergic reaction to some to some flowers that I sniffed. I sniffed them and I'm having an allergic reaction. Just give it some time. You'll be okay. Well, how much time? It depends on the person. Some time could be 10 minutes and it could be 5 hours. I got a mosquito bite on my thumb the other day. And someone could have said it started to swell up my whole thumb, not just a spot, my entire thumb. And someone said, give it some time, where they could say that. Nobody said that. I was alone. Give it some time. Okay, that doesn't tell me how much time, but all right, I will. I thought it was going to go away in an hour. It went away in 3 days. My thumb was swollen for 3 days. So it's very ambiguous and unclear. That's how it works. Any. So any is an interesting one because any is to talk about more than zero or can emphasize a zero amount. None is another one of those, right? It's often used as a question. For example, do we have any milk? Do we have any milk? If the answer is no, that means we have zero milk. No milk. We have no milk. Do we have any milk? Yes, we have a lot. Okay. So this any is not to tell you the amount of something usually. It's usually about whether it's none or any amount over none, which is some, a lot, a huge amount of milk. It doesn't tell you the amount. It's just a yes or no question, usually. So while you could answer, no, we don't have any milk, usually the answer is going to be no or yes. And then someone will say, how much? We say, oh, we have 1 quart of milk, or however much we have, right? If you want to make a statement, it's time to go to the supermarket. Why? We don't have any milk. We don't have any milk. I'm saying we have zero milk. We have no milk. It's a good way to make that statement. Don't have any. It's often used in the negative. It would be strange to say, we have any milk. If you're making a positive statement, you're not asking the question, but making a positive statement, probably better to say, we have milk. We have some milk, right? So any is more often used in the negative. Don't have any. Unless it's a question. Do we have any? Which is pretty common. Hopefully that answers your question. Henrique, got to get a feeling for these. The best thing you can do is just look out for examples and you'll get a feeling for it. Okay. It is 9 p.m. Friday in India. Very cool. Amal, hello, welcome. Pipe, Raphael. Do you have any milk? Sorry, I don't have any. And what about coffee? Oh, sure. Do you want some? Is that right? Yes, absolutely right. Raphael, that's correct. These are all good examples here. You got it. You got it. Well done. Well done. It would be great if you could practice English with your subscribers. Greetings from Colombia, not Colombia. Yeah, I wonder how often people misspell that. So I also realize it should be Colombia instead of Colombia. Very similar, right? Columbia University, Columbia. Probably named after Columbus. We have a lot of Columbus. There's a Columbus in Ohio named after Christopher Columbus, but Columbia is with an O, and I think people often maybe misspell and probably mispronounce it. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and I've been there. I stayed when I was there in Medellin, and don't know if I'm saying that correctly either. It was nice. I liked it. Had some good food. Good food. Manuel, hello. It's hard to read news in English like the Washington Post. Many new words. Absolutely. We're going to look at some news later on. I have some things to look through in the news. The best thing is to not overwhelm yourself. When you're reading news, don't say, I must understand every word. Try to get a sense for it. Try to understand basically what's going on, and then look up a few words and phrases that you don't know. Don't burden yourself with the requirement of complete knowledge. To the question of practicing with, where's that? Hello, Prince. Welcome. I'm good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, I'm jealous of these people on Saturday already. You're all lucky ducks. Where was the comment about practicing? Yes. Yeah. So this one, it would be great if you could practice. I forgot to read the first part of it with us. That's kind of what I was just doing with Vitalik. I wanted to, let me know. You have to submit a form. But if you submit a form and you want to have a class with me, we'll do it. Do you mean just sort of everybody get together? I'm concerned that would be kind of chaos. Not that there's anything wrong with chaos. I like chaos, but chaos negative. I don't know if it would be good. I don't know if it would be productive. Well, let's hop on back over to the blackboard. Okay, we're going to talk about disagreement. Why is my thing suddenly zoomed out? I believe this is, this might be Vietnam behind me. Could be. Southern China. Definitely some rice paddies going on back there, eh? Okay. Well, I'll answer that, Henrique, in a second. We often need to disagree with people, but there are different ways to do it. Sometimes you want to be very direct, and you don't care if it sounds rude. Sometimes you want to be very gentle, and you want to make sure you haven't offended anyone. Because if they get offended, then you feel upset. Well, how do you do one or the other? That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to look at phrases for disagreeing with someone, first directly and rudely, and then more politely in a more indirect way. All right? So let's hop over to the board, talk about expressing disagreement. Now, you'll notice a trend. When we speak directly, and I don't mean it is rude, it can come across or seem rude, we often use simpler language and we use simpler sentences. And when we want to be more polite or less direct, we add specific words. You'll see words like quite and just and then things before commas like in my view. That sounds a little bit formal, but something like that feels much more polite and respectful than just saying what your opinion is, right? Now, with quite and just, think about this. If someone asks your opinion about something and you just say, I don't like it, how does that sound? Well, it's very direct. Maybe you want to be. But if you say, it's not quite my style, it's not quite my thing, and you add quite there, then what you've done is made it a lot softer. And it sounds more sort of like I'm standing farther away and giving my view with some flowers attached to it, right? The best way to really understand how we do this is to look at some examples. So let's start with some example sentences that focus on indirect, and then we'll look at some more direct ones, okay? I don't quite see it that way. So if we use quite as opposed to I don't see it that way, we're softening it. We're softening it by adding quite. I don't see it that way. Could be a little direct, maybe a little bit rude, possibly, right? I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I don't quite see it that way. We could also put well there to have a sort of pause, and that might soften it a bit too. Well, I don't see it that way. Well, I don't quite see it that way. Then at the end we might say, but that's just my opinion. It's only my opinion. Definitely softens it. We may not see eye to eye on that one. Instead of we don't see eye to eye. Eye to eye is a common expression. It means you agree or you feel the same way as someone else. We don't see eye to eye on this. That might sound direct and rude. We don't see eye to eye on this, and then you walk away. I don't see eye to eye with you on this one. And then you go. Feels a little bit straight. We may not. Much more gentle. Much less direct, right? And if you wanted to make it even softer, put quite there. Because quite softens everything. We may not quite see eye to eye. That's so indirect that I would advise not using it because it sounds like you're afraid to even give your opinion. I can see how you may think that, but so there you're using the sandwich method where you're kind of giving somebody something, you're giving them some credit. You're saying, well, yes, that's very nice, or what you just said is nice and interesting, and I see your point of view, your perspective. That could be a way of showing respect to someone. That's great. Instead of just saying your opinion, well, I think you're crazy because, or I think, and just say your opinion. It's fine, right? I think is a normal way to start an opinion. But to use this first, I can see how you may think that. But I think is a way to kind of put a bun on top of the meat that you want to say, the sandwich method. And then maybe at the end you put another bun underneath. I'm more of the opinion that, now this sounds extremely formal. Oops, that's a R. Formal. This sounds very formal, so only use this one if you are in a formal situation. You want to be cautious of other people's feelings. You don't want them to think you're being too direct. And maybe this feels a bit academic as well. Academic settings. I'm more of the opinion that, instead of just saying I think. Now, I don't want to suggest that I think is rude. It's not. It's neutral. It's just a way to say your opinion. This is just a way to give it a bit more formality. Now, after we after we disagree, if we can't resolve the disagreement, we have the disagreement, we can't figure it out, we're just going to separate now. Or on this issue, we can't really solve it, so I don't know what to say. To each their own. It's like saying I'm giving you credit for having your opinion, and that's fine. I don't agree with it. This is quite respectful. And agree to disagree is pretty neutral, but it's a nice way to say I disagree with you, but I understand that you have a different view on it, and that's fine. And you know, you have your opinion. Agree to disagree. Very common expression, usually at the end of a conversation, after we've had the conversation and we've realized we don't have the same point of view. We might say something like this, okay? Now what I'd like to do is go in the complete opposite direction and talk about how we can directly say what we think, even going as far as to express ourselves rudely on purpose, okay? You're dead wrong. This is a very strong one. You're dead wrong. That's like a punch in the face before you say, I think. Right? Again, I think is not rude, it's not direct, it's not indirect, it's just clearly stating your opinion. It's neutral. But if you say you're dead wrong, I think, I'm slapping you across the face, pay attention, splashing you in the face with a cup of hot coffee, and then saying, I think. That's what it's doing. You couldn't be more wrong. This is another version of this, which I think is a little less rude sounding and is more of a passionate disagreement. It's not that I want to be rude to you, but it's that I think your opinion is crazy and I'm going to educate you and teach you the right way. I'm going to share my view now, and I think you're thinking in the wrong way. I think you're thinking in the wrong way. Don't say that. It could be considered rude. It really depends on how you say it. Listen, you couldn't be more wrong on this one if you wanted to add it specifically. Not you in general, not all your opinions on this one. On this one. Maybe you're right on other issues, but on this one, you couldn't be more wrong. So it depends on how you express that. This one is pretty rude, though. This one you might use for a family member or a close friend, right? You just think that their opinion is so stupid, or the way that they're saying it, you can't believe that you're hearing it. And you say, you should hear yourself. Now, you might say, I can't believe what I'm hearing, but that's more for, I can't believe what I'm hearing might often be used for shock or surprise. This is not for shock or surprise. This is like saying, if you had your head screwed on straight, you would be able to hear how stupid what you're saying is. I can hear it, so I can make this comment. You should hear yourself. Are you insane? Or, that's insane. That's crazy. Again, it's like a slap in the face. You're a lunatic. You're a psycho. You're insane. That's insane. Are you crazy? Very similar thing. Now, are you crazy can be used in a lot of ways, which are not necessarily rude, but just a way to express surprise. You're doing something risky, right? You're getting on a motorcycle that is you're driving on a road by a cliff. Are you crazy? What are you doing? They're expressing concern, but sometimes somebody says an opinion I strongly disagree with. I might say, are you crazy? And in that case, it feels more like that's insane and you should hear yourself. It could come across as rude, but again, we have relationships with people, friends and family we're close to, and we just speak like this. And it's not an insult, it's just a way to communicate with people we're close with. Stop talking. Very rude. If it's with somebody you don't know, yeah, that's very rude. But again, if you're talking to a friend or a family member, we have these ways of speaking that are less formal. We don't say, may I please open the window if that's okay with you. When we're talking to family, we just say, I'm going to open the window. Because it's tiring to speak any other way, right? So stop talking depends on the situation, but could be considered rude. So those are some very common expressions for talking about our opinions when we disagree with someone else. Again, you have to be cautious of the situation. You have to understand the situation you're in, whether you want to sound more direct, whether that's going to be rude or not, or less direct, whether that's going to be formal and academic or not. But generally speaking, if you don't know what to say, just say I think, because that's pretty neutral. It's not one or the other. Okay. How come the rude ones are so much easier to remember? I'm afraid I might use them. Yeah, you should use them. Why not? Hi, teacher, or hi, teacher Luke. How about hi, Luke? How about that? I don't like being called teacher. It makes me feel like I'm in a kindergarten. In my opinion, reading news will show us you can write the same phrase in more elitist words than you have never read before. Yeah, you can learn writing and interesting expressions in the news for sure. IMHO, that's a good one. Yeah, if you're texting someone, IMHO, in my humble opinion, some people would say in my honest opinion, but humble. If you say the whole, you wouldn't say IMHO ever, but you would say, in my humble opinion, and then say your opinion. That's definitely on the polite side, on the respectful side, for sure. Don't say IMHO. Never say IMHO. Right? Written only. Text only. Yeah. Time for a coffee break. My voice is getting a little scratchy. Turn off the interview thing. Let's see what we've got on. Good old Reddit. This is English, Reddit English Learning. English as a second language. Common questions. I like to go through these. I work with all non-native English speakers. Would you prefer I make corrections in tracked changes? What is that? Oh, I got to read it right. I work with all non-native English speakers. Would you prefer I make corrections in tracked changes? I am the only native English speaker in my workplace. Often we work on different parts of a paper, and I will volunteer to put everything together. I make a lot of changes to my colleagues' English without them asking, just correcting their grammar and phrasing. I never do this in track change. What is track changes? Because I feel like it's insulting them, but I realize they all typically use track changes with one another. Well, we'd like to help with this one, but I don't even know what track changes means. I have no idea what that means. To all English native speakers, what is an animal that is considered to be clever? Foxes. I want to use it in my English class to symbolize tasks for clever kids, aka insert clever animal. In Germany, it's a clever fox. Same in English. Clever fox is right. Clever fox. What does final third of the next month mean? Is it third of the next month or third last of next month? That's confusing. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. My prisoners, I could only beat my prisoners alive. Here's daily life. I'm hoping, as in I'm hoping I'll be fluent. Yes, this is a good one. This is an interesting one, right? I like this one. Is it grammatically correct to say, I'm hoping, as in I'm hoping I'll be fluent in English one day? Hello, everyone. I'm wondering if I'm hoping is grammatically correct. I know it's commonly used, but is it more correct to say I hope, I've been thinking about I think and I'm thinking and how these two have different meanings and aren't interchangeable. Is it different for I hope and I'm hoping? Thank you very much. What a great question. So I think and I'm thinking. What's the difference between those two, right? I think is not what you're doing now. That's the beginning of an opinion. I think dolphins should join society. I don't think that. I'm thinking we could get Thai food tonight. So there, yes, I am saying my opinion, but I'm telling you what I'm thinking about right now. So usually when we say I'm thinking, it's not that we have to give an opinion, but that we're sharing our current thought process. So they're different, right? But it is not the case with I'm hoping and I hope, usually, right? When you say I hope, you're going to talk about something that you want, either to be true right now or to be true in the future, something that you desire, something that you wish for. I'm hoping, right, is the same thing. Now, they might be used slightly differently in different situations, but generally, they mean the same thing. If I say, for example, I hope it rains tomorrow, I could equally say, I hope it rains tomorrow. If I say, I'm hoping, I hope, it's the same. I hope it rains tomorrow, I'm hoping it rains tomorrow, right? I'm hoping we won't need to sit through a 3-hour meeting next Wednesday. I hope we won't need to sit through a 3-hour meeting next Wednesday. Either one of those is okay. There may be a slightly different feeling about the immediacy. If I say, I hope that this doesn't happen, I hope it doesn't happen, then it feels like I'm just making a statement and there's less maybe emphasis on my current feeling. It's just a statement that's generally true about me right now. But if I say, I'm hoping I get that interview, then I'm kind of focusing more on the current immediate feeling that I have. So anytime you use this present continuous tense, you're going to be kind of diving into the moment. You're diving into the subjective experience that this person has in that moment. I'm thinking we should get Thai food. I'm hoping we can get Thai food there, right? But you could just as easily say, I hope we can have Thai food later, right? Now, I hope might be more often used for big, broad things like, I hope I have enough money saved when I retire, and maybe that's 30 years from now. It's a very big thing. I hope the world will be peaceful. That's just such a big, large-scale thing. You probably wouldn't say, I'm hoping that when I retire, I will have enough money saved. It's not wrong to say, but I think it's less often used for those sorts of big hopes, whereas I hope would be more often used for those large-scale, big things. That's my take on this. I'm curious what other people are saying. I'm hoping works great. It means you are actively engaged in the act of hoping. Yes. Yeah. Maybe there's not much difference to me. I guess it does sound a little more eager, as if it's referring to something that you're feeling actively and strongly. Nothing wrong with it at all. As an older bloke, here's how I might use it differently. I'm hoping that one day I'll be fluent in English. I'm hoping that, comma, one day, comma, okay? I mean, yeah, you could. I'm hoping to X, or I'm hoping he X's is slightly smoother for that usage. It's not incorrect. So, yeah, people are pretty much agreeing with me. It's more about the usage and the feeling, but generally speaking, they're the same. I've just finished typing what looks like a full course on the present continuous, and I'm stumped. Firstly, I wouldn't use will after a present continuous, but I'm not sure why. I'm hoping to be fluent in English is more correct. Well, I don't think so. The original question was, I'm hoping I'll be fluent. Yeah, I think it sounds fine. I'm hoping I will be. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. All right. Well, good question here. I like this one. We can find one more. Thanks for joining, everybody. If you're just joining, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Happy Friday. Or Saturday, depending on where you live. Some people are experiencing Saturday. Some people are experiencing Friday. And we know which one is better. Feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you like to support the channel. That would be fantastic. If you want to check out my courses, you can do that in the links in the description. You can sign up for a free course in the links in the description. So do that. What else? Nothing else. Thank you very much. Ymir? Appreciate that. Rachid? Okay, maybe we can look at one more. Let's look at one more. Question about unlike present continuous. Oh, we don't need any more present continuous. When to use contractions? Oh, Maya. Sorry, Maya. All right, I will remember. Or informal verbs, orally and written. Trying to find one that catches my eye. What does hang somebody out to dry? That's an interesting one. Hang someone out to dry. This is the first time I used this laptop. This is the first time. This is an interesting one. Is it grammatically correct to say, this is the first time I use this laptop? I know that the phrase, this is the first time I have ever used this laptop, is grammatically sound, but how about this is the first time I use? Okay. I asked the same question to High Native, don't know what that is, and there seems to be disagreement. This is the first time I use sounds wrong to me. Doesn't sound right. And the reason for that is that we usually use the present tense not to talk about the present, but to talk about general things outside of time. When we want to step out of the timeline, we'll often use the simple present tense. I go, I use. So for example, if you say, I go to the gym twice a week. Well, what is that I go? Are you going now? No. If you're at the gym for the first time, do you say, I go to the gym for the first time? No, you say, I'm going, right? Or you could say, this is the first time I've been to the gym. We'll talk about the grammar of that in a second. But the interesting thing there is that we say simple present tense, but rarely is the simple present tense actually used to describe the present or now, right? Now, there are exceptions to that. For example, what would be an example? I want pizza. I want pizza is a feeling I have, right? And it's a feeling I have right now. I don't say, I'm wanting pizza. I say, I want pizza. I need coffee. These are now things. So, of course, there are exceptions to this. There are cases where we use the simple present tense to talk about things going on now. But often, when we're doing some action, when we're doing something, we'll use either the present continuous tense or we will use something like the present perfect tense. Okay, so now let's get into it. This is the first time I have ever used. The first time I have used. Let's go with that. Okay. This is the first time I have been to this gym. Am I at the gym now? Probably, yeah. This, because I say this, I'm in this time. This is the first time. If I say that was the first time I had ever been to that gym, then I'm talking about the past. Okay? So you can be doing something now. If it's the first time or the second time or the third time, it doesn't really matter. But the fact that it's happening now and you're talking about the number of times, you're going to be able to use probably the present perfect tense. Okay? This is the third time I've seen this movie. Am I watching this movie now? Yes. How do we know? Because I say this and I'm using the present perfect tense. This is the first time I have seen this movie. This is the fourth time I've watched this movie. This. If it's in the past, again, it would be the past perfect tense. That was the third time I had seen that movie. Now this, that. Okay. This means we're here. We're in it. Now the other way to do this would be, and no, ever here, you can use ever, that's fine. It emphasizes it a bit more. The other way we might do this is to make it present perfect progressive or continuous. This is the first time I'm using this laptop. This is the first time I'm using. Am I using it? Yes, I am using it. So ask yourself first if it makes sense to use by itself. What are you doing? I use this laptop. Ooh, that doesn't sound right. What do you want? I want ice cream. Well, that sounds natural. Okay. What are you doing? I use this laptop. No, I'm using this laptop. Oh, okay. That's a continuous action. You're doing it. It's ongoing. Great. That works. So we can build stuff around it. Now that we know it works, we can say this is the third time I'm using. This is the last time I'm using this laptop. Actually, this is the last time I use this laptop would work. But let's put that aside for a second because that gets a little bit more complicated. We're making a broad statement that's still kind of outside the timeline. I just discovered something interesting. If I say last, this is the last time I do this. This is the last time I use this. Actually does work for a different reason, okay? First time, second time, third time, fourth time. This is the fourth time I'm using would be the right way to say it. And it is awkward to say I use, although there is that last time. We're making a statement about us that's kind of universally true. I'll have to think more about how to frame that and why that one is correct. But in this case, for this specific one, it's better to use have ever used or I'm using. Let's see if anyone else has answered this one. No, that is not correct. These two are correct. This is the first time I have used, or this is my first time using. That would work too. Yep, this is the using, ing. This is my first time using. This is the first time I'm using. This is my first time using. Absolutely, yeah. This is the first time I've used this laptop. The way it works is you are noting a shift in the present. This is the first time I have been here. This is the first time I have used. I have never used this laptop. Yeah, okay. This is the first time I am using this laptop. Maybe? Yes, and that is correct as well. That one is correct too. So I am using my first time using, which I didn't mention, but that is a good one to mention. And I have used. All right. Great question. Let me think for a second about why is it correct? I have to think about this. Why is it correct to say this is the last time I use? This is the last time. I can say not this is the first time. This is the 10th time I use. That doesn't sound right. This is the last time I use. Why is that correct? I may need to do some research. This is the last time we go. I think what it's doing is using the subjunctive mood. Well, not quite. I need to do some research. I need to think about it more and do some research about that one. That's driving me crazy now. Something that's right, but I can't quite pin down why it is. What does engaged mean, and how does that connect with engagement, like an engagement ring? Yeah, that's a good one. This is the last time I am going to use. Yes, that's right. Sung Hee Hong, I think that's how you say it, says, what does engaged in mean? How does that connect with engagement, like engagement ring? Okay. So engaged has a lot of different uses and meanings, and that's the first thing to realize. You can't always make a connection. In words, you might find two words, or rather the same word, used in two different ways, and you ask yourself, okay, it's the same word. How in the world is... There's a hair on my eyebrow. How in the world is this meaning of this word connected to that meaning? Well, relax knowing that you don't have to make the connection. You don't have to worry about it. It's fine. Let it go. You can have multiple meanings for the same exact word. Like, for example, B-O-W, bow. To bow down is an action. A bow, you can make it a noun. But on top of a present, it's a bow. And a bow tie would be on here. Is there a connection? I don't know. Maybe way, way back. I have no idea. I don't care. Right? In my mind, same word, two different meanings. There you go. So what about engage? Well, as a noun, it would be engagement. Verb is engage. And maybe we can focus on the noun first. Engagement, an engagement, a thing, is like in the sense of marriage, commitment to get married. So it's a period of time between dating and marriage. And we say, during our engagement, this period of time, it's a thing, it's a chunk of time when these two people went from dating to married. Maybe they don't make it to being married. We broke it off during our engagement. So someone had said, will you marry me? And the other person said, yes, let's do it. They made a promise that maybe there was a ring, maybe not. Sometimes there's not. And then they make that commitment, they make it to marriage, they get married, or they don't, and they break up. Okay. That period is called the engagement. And all of the stuff around it uses engagement as the adjective. Engagement ring. Engagement party? Maybe. I don't know if there are engagement parties. But generally speaking, whether it's an adjective or a noun, it's talking about the same thing. When someone says, oh, nice ring, are you engaged? You would say, yes, I'm engaged. I'm engaged. Or no, I just bought it for myself. I'm engaged to Brad. Or Steve. Boring names, sorry. Okay, so that's how it's used in that way. But what if you have an engagement? That could be another meaning of engagement, like a speaking engagement. That would be something that you have committed to do as well, that is organized, planned ahead of time, and that usually is public and out in the open. A speaking engagement, a public engagement. That meaning is different from the relationship meaning. That meaning is about having planned something, having committed to something that you're going to be involved in some way, and usually it's a kind of event that's used like that. There, you wouldn't use the word engage or engaged, probably. You would just say, I have an engagement, a speaking engagement on the 31st. I'm sorry, I can't go to your engagement party because I have another engagement, a speaking engagement on the 31st. So sorry. So sorry. Now, what if we're engaged in something? For example, engaged in a fierce debate. That means we're... Actually, let me pause for a second. Before I answer that, let me answer engage by itself, and then we'll get to in an engagement. If I look at you in the face and I say, I heard that you don't like... What's something that I like that most people don't like? I heard that you don't like mint chocolate chip ice cream. I'd like to talk to you about that. What's wrong with it? Which flavors have you tried? I have now engaged you in conversation. This is like two gears locking into place. I have focused on you, and I have connected with your brain. Your brain and my brain are connected. We're now talking about this thing. And you say, well, I don't feel like mint and chocolate belong together. And I say, have you tried... I like this. My favorite flavor of ice cream. Okay. Some people hate it. I really like it. So we're locked in this now discussion, and I have started it. So I have engaged you in conversation. It's got a formal feeling to it, but now we are engaged. We're engaged in a conversation, right? So that means we're linked together. We're connected. We're interested in what the other person is saying. I want to know why you don't like this, and you want to know why I do, and we have this discussion. It doesn't have to be a disagreement, by the way. That's just an example. But we're deeply connected to what we're talking about. We are engaged in a discussion. We're engaged in a debate. I have engaged you in a debate or discussion. Then we go to engagement, and there you see something like watch times. If you have a YouTube channel, one of the things that you'll see is your engagement number. And this is the amount of time that people stick with a video, for example, that you make. If you have high engagement, that means people who click on it stay and they watch for a long period of time. If you have low engagement, as soon as they enter, they leave. So low engagement means people are not listening, interested, and focused on what they see. High engagement means people are actively kind of participating in what they see with their brains, right? High engagement, low engagement. Okay. So that's kind of the same meaning. Now, if I'm engaged in some task, not conversation, then I'm not talking about another person. I'm not talking about a relationship. That means I'm sort of focused on that thing. I'm doing that thing. I'm working on that thing. I'm connected to that thing, right? We could say something like, she was engaged in a long legal battle with her ex-fiance, who she had been engaged to. She was engaged in a long legal battle with her ex-fiance that resulted in a large settlement and her getting custody of the dog. It's a long sentence, but engaged in that means they're kind of locked in place in the same way that we were engaged in conversation. And so we could be engaged in battle. We could be engaged in a conversation. We could be engaged in our work. If you're working on something, you have a task, right? You seem very engaged in what you're doing. I won't bother you. I was going to bring you some mint chocolate chip ice cream, but I can see that you are engaged in something very important right now, i.e. focused on something, locked into something, working on something very intensely that you're interested in. I will let it melt beside the door. Okay. And I'll see you later. So that's just an exploration of how we use this word, engage, engagement. The first thing to do is forget that there's a lot of connection between these things. Maybe there is, but we don't have to worry about it too much, right? probably is a connection with engagement because we're sort of locked into each other before marriage, right? But we don't really think about that when we talk about an engagement ring. So I say forget about those connections. Just know how to use everything. Make sure you know the different uses. Practice them as much as you can, and you'll be fine. All right. Sorry if that was a long-winded reply. Hopefully that answers your question. Well, you're not involved in the marriage, right? Well, you once you get married, you don't say that you're engaged because that would cause confusion. Because if you say to your wife, "Yeah, I'm engaged with my wife," it's an awkward phrasing because wife is a relationship term. And so we think of the relationship, but then when we say engage, we think of the other type of relationship, which is the one that happens before marriage. So that would be confusing, I think. In that situation, so you would just say, I'm married. I'm married. Sounds like the plot of a movie. I can't remember which one, about guy losing custody of a dog. I don't know. This is the last time I'm doing this for you, okay? I can both be This is the last time I'm doing this for you. Okay, I can both be doing right now or I'm about to do. Is that correct? I'm not sure I quite understand the question there, Raphael. Maybe rephrase it a little bit. Sure thing. By the way, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Sung Hee Hong? Is that correct? Please let me know. I don't think I'll be able to sleep if I don't know if it's correct. Recently, you may have seen that student loans are being forgiven by the Biden administration. What is that all about? Student loans. Well, if you didn't know, one thing that happens in the United States, it's pretty crazy, is that 18-year-olds graduate high school and then they go into university, and in order to pay for it, because the tuition is extremely high, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 per year, they get loans. And many of the loans are from the government, government-provided loans. Some of them are private loans. These are not free loans. These are loans with interest. Some of the loans, the government loans, are maybe 6% interest. So think about that. The government is saying, oh, these 18-year-olds, let's give them $200,000, because I'm sure that they're responsible enough to make those decisions. And then let's charge them 6% interest for the rest of their lives. Ooh, what a great way to make money. This has caused a lot of problems because you have students graduating from university with $160,000, $200,000, $300,000 of debt, whether they finish with an undergraduate degree or a master's degree, thinking, how am I going to pay this back? And you have to start paying it back 6 months after you graduate. So as soon as you finish, you've got to start working, and you've got to start paying it off right away. Some payments are low, $100, $200 a month. Some are high, $800, $900, $1,000 a month. So the first question is that a decision that an 18-year-old can make responsibly? I would say no. I think it's, personally, my opinion, crazy to assume that an 18-year-old is responsible enough to know whether or not getting into that much debt is a good idea. Second, how crazy it is that it's so easy to get. You can get the loan very, very easily. You wouldn't give an 18-year-old a credit card for that much money. You wouldn't give them a car loan even for that much, probably. You certainly wouldn't give them a home loan. They wouldn't be qualified at age 18. So it's an interesting thing. And because it's so easy to get the loans, that has made the price of college tuition go higher and higher, skyrocketed price. In the 1970s, it was very cheap to go to university, not very expensive. And then after the student loan programs started, the universities were thinking, oh, well, if they're just going to get loans anyway, they're not thinking about the price. Who cares? Let's just do that. So they did. So now you have to spend $400,000 to get a master's degree that may or may not allow you to make a good living. And in my generation, it's a huge issue. People are deciding not to move out of their parents' homes and actually go out on their own because they're saddled with student debt. People are not able to buy cars. People are deciding not to have kids in my generation, millennial generation, because of their student loan debt. It's insane. And I think it's something like $1.8 trillion. So, in response to this, there has recently been a push by the government to kind of fix it. Instead of just saying all student loans are wiped away, they are doing a policy to help some people. I'll be honest, I don't fully understand it. So what I'd like to do is, I don't want to read the whole article, but the White House, maybe Joe Biden did it himself, put out a fact sheet to explain what they're doing to help people who are in huge student loan debt. So let's check out the fact sheet. We're not going to read the entire thing, okay? We're going to just take a look and pull out some useful words and phrases that we find. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to read this whole thing word for word. We're going to use it as a tool to pull out interesting words and phrases, and when it gets a little boring, we'll just skip right over that, okay? And along the way, I'll be writing down some things on the blackboard over here. Okay, so I'll be writing a few things down. I'll be writing some things down. President Biden announces student loan relief for borrowers who need it most. Okay, so there's a 3-part plan, blah, blah, blah. Cancel $10,000 of student debt for low to middle income borrowers. I make $5 million a year. Does that make me low income? No, that's not. I'm just kidding. President Biden believes that I'll try to highlight where I'm starting here. President Biden believes that a post means after, post-high school education should be a ticket to a middle-class life. But for too many, the cost of borrowing for college is a lifelong burden that deprives them of that opportunity. So ticket here is being used as a way to get that. We often use ticket in that way, not a physical ticket, but just a way of achieving that. A ticket to a happy life. The ticket to a happy life, or that's the ticket, we say, if something is really good, you're doing it right this time, that's the ticket. The ticket to a happy life is unlimited coffee and mint chocolate chip ice cream. To a middle-class life, but for too many, the cost of borrowing for college is a lifelong burden that deprives them of that opportunity. To deprive is to remove, to take it away. Okay, so let's just quickly write those down, and then we'll move on. That's not what I want. Yes. Okay, so a ticket, not the physical ticket, but using it as a non-physical thing to mean the way to get that, and deprive take away. Take away. Some people are deprived of life. They're deprived of happiness. Don't deprive me of my mint chocolate chip ice cream. Take away. And then post something. Post high school, post apocalyptic, post mortem. Post means anytime you see post, it just means after. Okay? Get back to the thing, shall we? Today, the Biden administration is following through on that promise and providing families breathing room as they prepare to start repaying loans after the economic crisis brought on by the pandemic. Okay, breathing room is an interesting one. I want to write that one down as well. So if you have breathing room, that means you have space. It doesn't actually mean you have room to actually breathe, but I have some breathing room could mean I have extra money, some savings that make me feel a little comfortable. It's nice to have a little breathing room. If anything happens, I have some savings, so that'll be fine. Or you could say, I think I just need a little breathing room to think. That means I want to be away from people. I'm going to go on a walk. I just need some breathing room. It's not only about breathing, it's about having space usually to do something in some way. Since 1980, the total cost of both four-year, and I'm going to be skipping ahead, but I just want to get the beginning part clearly, okay? Both four-year public and four-year private college has nearly tripled, 3x, that's crazy, even after accounting for inflation. Federal, anytime you see the word federal, it's going to be related to, it's going to be national. Federal and state. So federal is the national level, the main government, the central government, and state is the local government. Sometimes you see state, sometimes you see local. Not Post Malone, yeah. Federal support has not kept up. That means it's not enough. And then Pell Grants we can skip over. They used to cover nearly 80% of the cost of a four-year public college degree for students from working families, but now only cover a third. To cover something means it fills that. To cover the cost. I'll cover you means you forgot your wallet. I'll pay for it for you. I don't mind. To cover the cost means it's able to pay the cost. So my insurance covers me. We often use the word coverage when we talk about insurance coverage. How's your insurance coverage? Does your coverage include dental? Does it include your dental? No, my coverage doesn't include dental. Does it include emergencies? No, it doesn't include emergencies. So what does it cover? I don't know. Okay. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to skip a little bit further, but this end thing, the typical undergraduate student with loans now graduates with nearly $25,000 in debt. And I know quite a few people who have $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, $200,000. The cost of attending college has skyrocketed. I really like that word. It means it goes way up very quickly, to skyrocket. You see it with prices. You see it with rates of things, crime. You see it with viral trends. Anytime something goes up in popularity or increases, or temperatures or something like that, where it can go up and down, we say skyrocketed when it goes up very quickly. Okay, there's the chart. Pretty crazy. From 1980 to 1921. Yikes. We're going to skip that paragraph. For the most vulnerable borrowers, the effects of debt are even more crushing. Borrowers, debt, and crushing. I like these. Crushing debt. So crushing is an adjective in this case. If something is crushing you, you're being smashed by it. A car crusher smashes the car flat, right? If you're being crushed by debt, you can't live comfortably. You can't buy a new car. You can't buy a house. You can't even have kids because everything you want to do is impossible financially because you're being crunched by how much debt you have, how much money you owe. So it's crushing debt. And that's not that it's happening to you, but it's the way that we describe the debt. It's the adjective for the debt. Okay. Moving on, nearly 1/3 of borrowers have debt but no degree, according to an analysis by the Department of Education of a recent cohort of undergraduates. That's just like a group. A cohort is a group. Many of these students could not complete their degree because of the cost of attendance, or because the cost of attendance was too high. About 16% of borrowers are in default, including nearly 1/3 of senior citizens with student debt. So default in this case means that you can't pay or you're not able to make your payments. So you're in default. If you're in default, you are in a state where basically you're not able to pay. Okay. Today, we're going to move ahead to the announcement here. Let's see what it's going to be. Don't disappoint us, Joe. Better make it good, Joe. I hope this isn't a sort of weak half measure, Joe. Today, President Biden is announcing a 3-part plan to provide more breathing room, we see it again, to America's working families as they continue to recover from strains associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. This plan offers targeted debt relief. So if it's targeted, it means, sorry about the sound, there's a vacuuming happening outside. If it's targeted is like focused, it's concentrated, it's not broad. It's kind of the opposite of the word broad. Broad means it covers everything, or at least a large amount. Targeted is very focused, very specific. We're going to help these people, those people. No, I don't think so. Which is kind of crazy because a lot of people, for example, let's say a New Yorker, the amount of money that you have to, the minimum. So I think it's 100 and, I think we'll see, but 125, less than 125,000. Well, if you make 125,000 in New York City, that might sound like a lot, but it's not. In New York City, it's very expensive to live there. And so if you have a lot of student debt and you're making over 125,000, you may still be struggling and still have a lot of difficulties because of your debt, even though you're making more than this, because it's expensive to live in, for example, New York. Okay, the Department of Education will provide up to $20,000 in debt cancellation to Pell Grant recipients. This is a government grant with loans held by the Department of Education, and up to $10,000 in debt cancellation for non-Pell Grant recipients. So if you got the Pell Grant, don't worry what that is. That's just a money that you got when you started college. I can't remember if I got one or not. You get up to. What are you up to? Not that meaning. That means what are you doing? If something is up to that, it's not more than that. So if it's 10,000, then you might only get 3,000 canceled. All the numbers up to that stopping there at 10,000. So it's not really saying exactly how much money people are going to have canceled. It's being a little bit slippery there, I think. No high-income individual or high-income household in the top 5% of incomes will benefit from this action. No high-income individual or high-income household in the top 5% of incomes will benefit from this action. To ensure a smooth transition to repayment and prevent unnecessary defaults, the pause on federal student loan repayment will be extended one final time through December 31st, 2022. So extend means to continue it more, right? If someone says the deadline is being extended, the deadline has been extended. Let's extend. Where can I write that? Let's extend the limit. Let's extend the deadline. Let's extend the due date. Let's extend the start date. No, we wouldn't extend a start date. Usually extend something that's finished. Let's extend the stop time. Let's extend something that before was here. We're going to put it later then. Okay, well I guess that's nice. That's for everybody. Cutting monthly payments in half. Okay, I want to skip ahead here. I want to see. Students and taxpayers. Okay, let's see how they're going to reduce the cost. Protect future students and taxpayers by reducing the cost of college and holding, college means university, and holding schools accountable when they hike up prices. So this is something that you often see related to increases. It's not the same as skyrocket. Hike up means the person doing it is taking an action. So if you see prices skyrocket, that is describing what's happening. You're just describing the trend. Oh, look, prices are skyrocketing. But if you say hike up, they're hiking up the prices, or sometimes you'll see instead of hike, you'll see jacking up. To jack up or hike up the prices focuses on the ones that are doing it. The university is hiking their prices or hiking up their prices, or the gas stations are jacking up their prices. Now, of course, they may be doing that because their costs are going up too, but it's focusing on what they're doing. You're not just describing the trend. That would be skyrocketing. That would be increasing. That would be going up. But to hike up is the action of the one controlling the price, making it go up. Oh, we're changing the yearly tuition at our school from $36,000 to $65,000 per year. Well, you're hiking up your prices a little too quickly, in my opinion. Okay, it's a little bit more. I want to just pick out one or two more words. Colleges have an obligation to keep prices reasonable and ensure borrowers get value for their investments, not debt they cannot afford. This administration has already taken key steps to strengthen accountability. Now, this word is kind of vague, but accountability is really about being responsible. If you see accountability, it means you make a decision and you might have to answer for that decision later. You are accountable. If you make the wrong decision, we will come to you when we have questions about it. If you're accountable, when you make the right decision, we say you're the one who did it and you're responsible for this. That can be a good thing, but can be seen as a negative thing, right? If there's no accountability, that means we don't know who's responsible for this. We don't know who should have made this decision that they didn't make. So no one was accountable. We are expressing our sense of frustration. If we say who's accountable for this, they are accountable. We go to them to accuse them of doing the wrong thing or to ask them questions about why they did it that way. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of getting repetitive. They're kind of repeating themselves. Yeah. There's a graph there. Okay. If all borrowers claim the relief they are entitled to, these actions will provide relief to up to 43 million borrowers, including canceling the full remaining balance for roughly 20 million borrowers. It's a lot. Target relief dollars to low and middle income borrowers. Borrowing among borrowers who are no longer in school, nearly 90% of all relief dollars will go to those earning less than $75,000 a year. No individual making more than $125,000 or household making more than $250,000 of incomes will receive relief. Interesting. If you hear household, that's an interesting one. That's the whole family, including the mother, maybe mother, father, and kids, right? That is a household. It doesn't have to be mother, father, but it's the whole home. And often that whole home is used when we talk about incomes. So especially if you have two people who are together, maybe they're married, for example, they are considered a household, and both of their incomes added up together make up their household income. So the household income, if one person makes 100 and another person makes 100, the household income is 200. And they have different limits. For example, here it's if you make more than 125,000, or as a household 250,000. So that's an interesting number that they chose. And I don't know, I understand why, but also different places are different. A household income of $250,000 in a rural place is probably great. In a big city like LA or New York, it's not so great. Okay. All right. We picked out quite a few words. This article goes on and on. My feedback for Joe Biden would be to simplify these. This is too long. Who's going to read all of this? It's too long. Nobody's going to read all of this. Building off of these efforts, the Department of Education is announcing new actions to hold accountable colleges that have contributed to the student debt crisis. Hold accountable colleges that have contributed to the student debt crisis. All right. Boring. So hopefully this works. Hopefully it's a good thing. I'll be honest, I have no idea if it's going to actually work. I think it would be cool if it's the government's loans, if the government just said, hey, all government loans are canceled. They could do it if they're delaying the payments and they keep pushing back, extending the deadline. They could just say everything's canceled. I'm sure that would be good for a lot of people. Anyway, that's interesting. Well, friends, neighbors, let me see if I missed any questions, and then I think we're going to call it a day. Post in medical means after. Yep. Did I say after? Yeah, I said after. All right. So you have... Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not too excited about it. Maybe that's because I'm not benefiting. Who knows? Well, everybody, it's time for me to have lunch. So thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. If I missed your question, I apologize. I'll try to get to it next time. We might be doing another movie discussion next Wednesday, and then one of these on Friday. If you're interested in signing up for a class with me to do in one of these, you can figure out where the form is. It might be in the community posts somewhere, but figure out where that is. Make sure you submit a video so that I know you're a real person. And Vitaly, thank you so much for doing it. I appreciate it. If you haven't already done so, also would appreciate hitting the old like button and subscribing. And you can check out the courses in the links in the description. You can sign up for a free course in the first link. Otherwise, check out the other courses. I'm going to get some more coffee. I'm going to get some lunch. I'm going to look outside at the clouds. And then I've got to work on my next course coming out, which is going to be a travel English course that I'm very excited about. So thank you, everybody. Talk to you next time. Hopefully, see you next week, and have a fantastic weekend.